evening, welcome back to the More YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark back on a Monday night, 9:30, asking the same question we ask every Monday night. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Will Newcastle United ever get a decent cup draw? I don't know if we will. That is unbelievable. We're going to talk about that tonight, amongst loads of other things to do with Newcastle and a bit of Out of Toon as well. Before we do, a little reminder, if you haven't already, smash subscribe. Help get us to the next milestone, which will be 13,000. We're live tonight as always. Jump in the chat as you guys always do. Helps this show tick along nicely. I am ever more on tour. It's been a long time since I've done this, so hopefully my Wi-Fi will hold out. And if not, Mark will carry the ship on his own. So I've just stitched him right up there.
Thanks very much for that.
No pressure, Mark.
No pressure.
How are you doing, mate? What's going on with you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm considering becoming a referee, to be honest with you, because if that fucking knacker can do a job like that, then I can do just as bad a job on a Saturday afternoon.
Yes, well, we have plenty to say about referees, I'm sure, tonight, because my word, if ever there was a time to have the really ref part of the show, it's definitely after the game at the weekend. But we'll get stuck in straight away, Mark. I think the first section that we had to kind of cover, really, it probably got answered in the game in many ways, because before the game, we put a little bit of an agenda together for what's going on, as we do. We like to plan things on the Evermore YouTube channel. We're semi-professional here, contrary to some of this shit we've taken over the last few weeks. And we did have a tag where we said no Bruno. So obviously the massive blow of losing Bruno Guimaraes till the end of March, who's such an influential player for us. Now, before Villa at the weekend, we hadn't won in 14 games with Bruno Guimaraes. And I think the way we teed this up on the show was who's going to step up in his absence. And I think we all saw on Saturday, there's one lad in particular who we're all looking at really in terms of the levels, the quality, the way he can control games. But he hadn't quite done it for quite a long period of the season. But my God, was it a good time for Sandro Tonali to come back to form at the weekend, Mark. That second half display was everything we've been looking for from Sandro for months now, wasn't it?
Is the kind of performance that Bruno's given, like it's that moment where you want one of the players to put the team on their back almost and do it. And look, we've been critical of him, and I think rightly so at times, because he's looked really off the boil most of the season, bar the odd performance here and there. But he was so much better, and I think you're right. Particularly the second half, it was the Sandro show, as we called the post match. He was just so much better than everybody else. He was the one that took the reins, had a shot. I mean, how many months have we screamed for players just to have a pop at goal, have a go, buy a ticket. Do you know you don't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket, and he did it. And look, he lucky with the first one, it takes a deflection and goes in. The second one, it is such a beautiful strike. And that's exactly what Newcastle needed. They needed somebody to step up and go, this game belongs to me, and that's exactly what Tonali did.
It's a great comment from Sticky Finger there. Bruno Blow thought he's gone back to Brazil, not Colombia. Very good, mate. That's the kind of Monday night banter we like, Sticky Finger. Well done, my friend. Well done. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously, Bruno is still such a huge influence to this team. There's no doubt about that at all. I mean, missing him is a massive blow, but I think, what we saw from Sandro at the weekend, and I did like, that he went over and gave Howe a cuddle, and that I think that helped kind of squash some of the noise that's been going on, because listen, whatever you want to say and have a go at people and content creators and all these other people for raising it, Sandro Tonali's not looked happy. He's not looked like he really wanted to be here. He's not given the performances that he has previously done. All the noise, about his agent, these proposed moves on the deadline day, links to clubs all over. It's not been a great look at all. So to see Sandro step up and do that, and then get excited, celebrate with the fans, and then go over and cuddle Howe. I think that was Tonali, putting down a little bit of a marker, saying, "Listen, I'm not wanting to get away here. I'm dedicated to the team. I'm wanting to put it in, and it quiets the noise down, because that's all footballers can do at the end of the day." We're going to talk about this in a minute, but there's been a lot of stuff said, written about how fans are to blame. If a player's off form, it's all your fault, fans. If a player doesn't do a job on the pitch, it's all the fans' fault, especially them who don't go to the ground and have those pesky YouTube channels, right? But the only way that players can silence all of that noise is by turning up and putting in a shift. And that's what Sandro Tonali did, on Saturday. And it was absolutely brilliant. Now, if you couple that with the return of Lewis Miley coming back as well, maybe Joe Linton over the next week or two, Mark. I mean, and Jacob Ramsey, I've got to say about Jacob Ramsey, he's been phenomenal. I think the last few games, definitely, that was a tough game for him emotionally as well against his old team, Aston Villa. I did love the shithousery badge kiss thing at Wayne Morgan Rogers. Cool. I did quite enjoy that. But, there's a lot of love from the Villa fans for Jacob Ramsey, but he's really starting to look like that player that was signed, Mark, aggression, box to box. I didn't even know he had that much aggression in his game. I didn't look at him as closely when he wasn't a Newcastle player, but, him coming into form now as well and really showing what he can do. And you've got to give Joe Willock a shout out too. He's really showed a lot of people, maybe he's not the finished article. Sorry, the finished player that we thought he was at Newcastle. He's really turned up. He's really turned up in the last few weeks as well. So to have that there, and we need that to kind of continue going forward. There's a lot of really difficult games coming up. But I think, as I say, with Tonali's return to form, Ramsey, Willock looking a bit better, Miley maybe coming back, and Joe Linton, we are going to miss Bruno. But do you think that softens the blow a bit, having all of that together?
I think so. I think the real big plus is, from all of that, outside of Tonali, obviously, like you said, is Ramsey, and those are the performances that we've wanted to see from Jacob Ramsey, because he is that player. He is tenacious. He will get stuck in. He's not very big, but he does have that side of him. Sometimes he's a bit lightweight, but he doesn't back out of stuff. He won't hold back. He does like to get stuck in. He does like to wind people up as well. And look, he can finish. We've seen that. We want to see more of that from him. I think we will do. But I think he's been given, and I sort of talked about this a while ago. One of the things, and we touched on this with Miley too, needs time. Needs time in the first team. Proper game time. Not 10 minutes here, not 15 minutes there. He needed 90 minutes after 90 minutes to get some continuity in his play, to get some real performances in it, and just keep his eye in on the field. And those performances were always bound to come. I felt, but look, his raising performance, Willock's raising in performance, Miley coming back especially. I think we're a week or so away potentially from Joe Linton being back in proper training, I think, or at least to be in the squad. I think when I was looking earlier, the suggested return date was going to be this weekend, so might see him potentially make the squad. I guess with the opponent, you don't want to rush him back, especially with the number of games that are coming. So maybe not, but that can only help soften that blow of Bruno not being there for 8 weeks or so. And look, it's starting to look a little bit brighter. It's starting to look a little bit rosier on Tyneside, isn't it? And it is when Bruno's down, it's almost like the world falls apart, because his influence on that team is so big. But we're just seeing a little bit of those shoots of recovery, those shoots of players being able to step up and take that mantle on themselves.
I think the whole world has started playing when Bruno Guimaraes can't play football, really. That's what I think. It's a little bit like when an angel loses its wings. But I suppose we've got to give a bit of credit here, because we have been critical, certainly critical of the manager, certainly critical of some of the players over the last few months. And I think it's been deserved. I think some of the performances haven't been good. But post-Brentford, everyone heard the boos at St James's Park. So you couldn't just, box it off to online, fans' discontent only because it was in the ground as well. But I think, Trippier come out and said, that the senior players had a meeting without Eddie Howe. Him, Byrne, Bruno, they all spoke to the players. And I certainly think you can see the games that followed that, the Spurs game and the Villa game as well. You can see more shape, you can see more hunger, you can see more desire. We asked the question, of the players still playing for Eddie Howe? And I think loads of other fan channels asked that too. I don't know if they've got as much shit as we have, by the way, or Toon Review and the True Geordie, but they probably have had some shit. But everybody was asking, are these players playing for the manager? Because whether you like it or not, modern day football, you become a little bit kind of numb to all of this, that the players, when they can't be arsed, just down tools. And I don't like it. And I've gone on record on the channel and said it numerous times. I don't like it, because the players keep their job and the manager loses his. It's happened to Sean Dyche this week, which we'll talk about later on Out of Toon. But we asked the question, are these lads playing for this manager? And I think what we've seen with the two performances, 2 away wins, We didn't have two away wins in practically a whole year, really. About 2 away wins in a week. And we've seen those performances. We've seen the senior players stepping up. We've seen the hunger, the desire, the determination, the press is back. We'll get into Nick Vollmer in a second. We saw Nick Vollmer play a different role and really impact the game as well at the weekend, and the manager being pushed in front of the away fans by the senior players. And whatever you think about the manager, whether you think his race has run with the club, that's fine if you do. And whether you think he is still a man to turn this around, that's also fine. It's okay to have discourse, unlike what some journalists tell you, which we'll come on to in a second. But in terms of that, you've got to give credit to the senior players and the players for stepping up and really putting in the performances and showing the manager that they are still listening to what he's got to say. And you got to give credit to the manager as well, because it has been the toughest period, I think, for his Newcastle tenure so far. And you can't deny that.
No, not at all. And look, yeah, you're absolutely right. We give criticism, I think, when it's due, but we also praise when it's due, and we're not short of praise for people when they deserve it. And yes, it's been a difficult period, and I think it's been rank at times. It's particularly away performances for the club this season and drifting into the back end of last season. But he's got two results. Maybe he's not the full performances out of the side. The result last week was I guess a massive turning point. It lifted everybody, and it may not have been perfect, and it was pretty good the first half. Second half wasn't great. The weekend it wasn't particularly great. First half it was much better. Second, and yes, there's the caveat in terms of it was a really bad Spurs team in its Villa with 10 men, but you can only play against what's ahead of you or what's in front of you. And at times this season they've not done that, and they haven't looked together, and they haven't looked like a unit. The last 2 weeks have shown that actually they can still perform as a unit. And to give Howe his credit, he changed the way that they set up, which is something that I think many, not to drift into police academy quotes there. Many
sound
people, no, so many pundits and fans alike have thought that to try and get the best out of some of those players is to play them in different positions and try something different. He did that, and there are still going to be teething problems with that. But Waldemar looked better. I wish he was further forward. He looks lost when he comes really, really deep. I'd love to see him up front with somebody off him rather than playing the role. Maybe it's that role in behind, because I think actually we've talked about him playing that 10, but I think he does come too deep. I'd like to see him in that high sort of 10 role. That sort of makes any sense, where he is much more influential around the box in the area, just on the edge of the area, because he's a great finisher. He can head the ball. He's not perfect. He's not going to be yet, but I want to see him in and around that. I don't want to see him on the halfway line, coming behind the midfield line to come and pick the ball up and start playing past the dead. That's not what I want to see from him. But we asked for changes. We asked for a different approach, and Eddie Howe has done that, and he's got two results out of it, two really positive results. And you said yourself, even with the criticism that you gave him, the best thing, or the one thing you really want to do, you want to be proved wrong. You want to be proved and nobody wants the team to fail. Nobody wants them to do badly. They don't want Eddie Howe to lose his job, but they wanted something. They wanted something to be able to hold on to for the rest of the season. Go, actually, he is looking at this. He is looking to do something different. He is trying to get the most out of the players he's got there. And from what we've seen, albeit a small sample, there is progress there.
Yeah, and it will go up and down. I'm going to read Ty's comment because you completely ignored him in the members Q&A. You bad man. So I'm going to read Ty's comments. Don't worry, Ty. I'm not letting him forget that one. But he's saying, let's be real. We've been utterly shy this season. Winning a couple of games doesn't change that. Let's hope this is the start of a decent run. But people who are critical are right to be. So we'll get into this in a second. Criticism, opinion, and discourse in football has been around since football was ever created. And all of a sudden, it's now become a taboo, which I've got a lot to say about in a second. You're getting some shit there off, George. Boo, Mark, boo. Ty says, fuck off, Chris. I told you I would look after you, Ty. I told you, mate. I told you. But yeah, I think there is a long way to go. There has been some green shoots, there's no doubt about that. The striker problem is still a problem. Wissa looks way off of it. Voltemada, now he's trying him in loads of different positions. Anthony Gordon is not a striker. If Anthony Gordon shot at JFK, he'd still be alive today. That's how much Anthony Gordon can't score fucking goals as much. I'm sorry, he can't. One good goal at Liverpool doesn't tell you otherwise. But he works hard, he's quick, and he causes bother. There's no doubt about that. He is useful up there. He occupies and he causes trouble and he worries defenders with pace, but he's not the answer. We don't have an answer. Asula looked way off of it. I thought on Saturday he looked way off the pace. He presses and he runs around and stuff like that, but he seems to lack that nous in terms of when to move, how to move, what touch to take, what position to take up, and and you can say he's a younger player, but he's like Voltemada's the same age as him. Do you know what I mean? So it's like he's not that young of a player anymore. But listen, it was a positive result. That's 2 back-to-back. Obviously we've got Carabao coming in midweek in the Champions League, which hopefully is a fixture that the club can win and maybe even rest players and rotate players and still win that first leg and then keep people a bit fresher. Big game against City at the weekend, which is going to be difficult. There's no doubt about that. We don't do very well at the Etihad. Let's get it right, guys. We don't. But, it's nice to see improved performances. And even if we go to the Etihad and get beat, if we play better, if we're not as open as we were in previous games, if we give it a good go, then you'll say, hey, do you know what? There is improvements there with those players coming back. Livramento not too far away as well. Sorry, that's that comment from Potback. He'd be 108, but I take your point. Yeah. Sorry, mate. I didn't do the math. But you got my point. But yeah, so it's good to see the improvements. As I said, when I was criticizing Eddie Howe, bar my minute when I lost my head, but I already explained that. I don't have to do that again. Every content creator who's asked the questions, right? They're all entitled to ask the questions, and every single person has said the same thing, whether it be us, Toon Review, True Geordie, True Faith, Gallagher Shots, whoever, right? The Magpie channel, everyone said, I want How to prove me wrong. I want How to turn this around. And we all do. Nobody wants to get behind a microphone as a content creator and be shouting and bawling about the manager. It's exhausting. The fan base at the minute are at each other's throats, and that takes me in a lovely segue to the next section, Mark, which is to do about the press. Now, we know Eddie Howe loves a press, loves a strong press, but the press have been pressing very, very hard of late. I'm not going to name the journalists because I don't want to do that. I don't want to cause pylons. I didn't like it when it happened to me. I'm not going to do that for them. But you all know who I'm talking about. Some of the stuff that's been written and some of the way some of the fans and certain types of fans have been kind of segregated and denigrated and almost discredited for having an opinion is mental. It's absolutely mental. Football, ever since it was created, even when players used to just score a hat-trick on Saturday, then be down the pits on Monday, talking to the lad who was watching him in the crowd. Even back then, players were criticised and one person's superstar was another person's shithouse, and that's football. Football is such a polarising, fickle game. And yes, it's been over-commercialised over the last few years. And, there's so many ways you can consume football content and media, and the media has been changing. It isn't just written press media anymore. It isn't the Sunday supplement on Sky anymore. It's people go on YouTube, people start channels, people have podcasts, and they talk about football and they offer football opinion. And a lot of the people who want to consume football opinions will go and listen to those people. Now, to suddenly discredit those people because their opinion doesn't align with yours is just lazy. It's lazy. You're not getting your point across. You're not helping the discourse in football. I mean, this is a society problem because there's no discourse in anything, be it politics, be it anything. But I'm not going to get into that. Fuck me. That's not the kind of podcast this is. But I'll be getting even more abuse. You've gone quiet there, Mark. I can't hear you if your mic's gone. But for me, you have to have balance. You have to have balance. If somebody's saying, oh, he's doing a great job, and then somebody else goes, I don't think he is, right? Turn around and say, why don't you think he is? And then they might go, oh, I don't like the team he picks, or he doesn't get the best out of that player. Like Brian did at the True Geordie. He doesn't like the way he's playing Voltemada. Doesn't think he's getting the best out of him. And he backed it up with facts. He showed Stuttgart highlights, Germany highlights, pointed out shapes, and he still gets shit for it. But some of the stuff that's been written, and I don't want to talk too much about this anymore. This is the last time we really want to cover on the channel, but to read things like, people having an opinion who belong in a sewer, I think is just total hyperbolic hysterical rhetoric, which ironically is something that Steve Bruce called us as a fan base, which we all got really pissed off about. And some of these people who are attacking people having an opinion were actually Steve Bruce apologists as well. When he was on a 27-game winless streak, and every fan was saying, this guy's fucking terrible, get him out of the club. And this is the same guy who actually called Eddie Howe the guy who got Bournemouth relegated, if you remember, in yeah. Steve Bruce. And now Eddie Howe is this kind of footballing god that can do no wrong. And the last person who would want to have that moniker is probably Eddie Howe, because he's a very self-aware, self-assessing individual. We've all seen what he's done in the High Performance podcast and the way he talks. If anybody puts himself under the microscope more, as Eddie Howe. He doesn't want people to think he's infallible or perfect. But for some strange reason, the press pack has got together, and anyone who questions the manager at any point at all, is getting vilified. And I think there's a bit of a hidden agenda with this, Mark, because media is changing. People are watching YouTube more than they are buying Telegraph subscriptions or Daily Mail subscriptions, right? And I think
not to give away who you were talking about.
Well, yeah, but they've already thrown out the comments. But I like some of those journalists, right? I've met them, I've had a pint with them, and I think they're good guys. I really do. I've been disappointed with some of the stuff that I've read. I feel like it's an unnecessary attack on a section of the fan base, and I just don't think you need to do that. If you call to be united, you can't start attacking one part of the fan base because their opinion doesn't align with yours. I just don't get it. I mean, at the minute, I will name these guys. At the minute, my kind of go-to journalists are the Geordie journos, because they seem to be the only ones at the minute who can be impartial. They praise Eddie Howe and they say he's a great guy and he's very pleasant at press conferences and all that, but then they're also not scared to say, but he needs to get this right because he's not doing this, he's not doing that. And I really hope the lads stay that way. I hope they don't swap that kind of authenticity for protecting relationships like we talked about last week with Brian. But I just wanted to get off my chest, mate, because I'm disappointed in it, because I used to watch a lot of these guys, and I've spoken to them. We've had some on the channel before as well, and I'm disappointed at this kind of constant denigration of people who have a difference of opinion. I just don't agree with it, mate. I just wanted to get off my chest, I suppose.
No, that's fair enough. And look, you're right. I mean, when you talked about it being the people from the sewers and stuff like that, I mean, is there a it's not really a very good way to create a conversation between people and understand why. This is the point I never get. It's shout at them and never understand why those people feel that way. Like we talked about this with previous ones. We talked about this with Matty as well, in the jump on from something that he said. Yes, you might not agree with what he said, but understand why he's saying that. Understand what his point of view is and where it's coming from, and have that conversation between the two. The journalists don't do that. And somebody put in the comments before, I missed who it was, so apologies for that. It's all about clicks. It's all about, like I said this the previous week, I think, it's all about them making money for ultimately their employees, their employers. Sorry, they all they want to do is cause, I guess at times, cause that pile-on for people, because it causes a stir in whatever fan bases, and no doubt it happens in other fan bases around the country as well. But we're in tune with it because of where we live, because of what we do. It's just, I don't see what good any of that does to anybody.
No.
In calling that out in the way that it's call it out. I don't mind the call out of stuff and just saying, look, we don't agree with this, and this is why. Give us your opinion. Come and have a conversation with it. Do a piece where we talk and discuss it, between us, and try to understand other people's point of view. It's. I go back to again what we said before. Everything's left and right. Everything's black and white. Excuse the pun. There's no grey area with anything anymore. There's no area for a conversation where you can agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's unfortunately a society thing as well. As I just said before, it's as I suppose there's a great comment there from Zeppelo. Unfortunately, football has become more like politics. You're either left or you're right. And he is right in that regard. You know what I mean? It is such a shame that it's become that way. I don't really want to waste any more energy on it, but it is disappointing, because I feel like now people are trying to be discredited. And there's actually some really good content creators out there who come up with really good points and raise really good points as well. and to discredit a kind of huge section. And it's weird because they sound like they're attacking, say YouTubers, but a lot of these guys have got their own YouTube platforms. So you're kind of attacking the same thing that you're going to do. And I don't get that. It's weird. I don't understand that. You can't say this is shite and it's discredited, but it's okay if I do it because I'm a proper journalist. I mean, we could apply for a press pass and get a press pass and go to the ground. Does that make us proper journalists? And then all of a sudden our opinion does matter. I don't understand, but for me, it's just weird that there isn't a lot of balance anymore in the media. I don't watch press conferences anymore. I'm not interested because, none of it, and this isn't me being hyperbolic and, trying to, oh, you're talking nerdy, blah, 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 right? But they're just shit. They don't ask any probing questions. It's all too soft. There's no challenging questions. They never say, all right, Eddie, what's happening with young players? I mean, again, the only people I ever hear when I did watch it asking that was the likes of Geordie Journos. The rest of it was all just bollocks, just kind of pre-approved questions. And I just don't agree with it. But yeah, I think that's the last we'll talk about it, Mark. Yeah. But I just think this whole attacking fans, when you're talking about the fan base needs to be united, and then you're fanning the flames of toxicity on social media platforms by digging fans up. There's certain clickbait merchants on there who do it all the time. I saw them doing it the other day. I'm not going to name who they are. They know who they are. And certain big fan channels or big fan accounts, try to have balanced conversations with them, which I thought was good on them. But it's just really boring. It's really, really boring, to be honest with you. Comment there from Tug Wilson. I love that. It reminds me of Tropic Thunder. What was he called? Was that Tugger? What was his name? I can't remember now. From Tropic Thunder.
Oh, I can't remember.
I just remember calling him Tugger Nuts. Was it Matthew Connie? Tugger Nuts. So Tug Wilson. Hello, guys. Great show. Since I've been in Barbados, the lads have been fantastic, so I'm staying a bit longer. By the way, YouTubers like you are slowly taking over the report and good stuff. Thank you very much, Tug. And I think that's the problem. I think there's an issue there. There's an issue there, I think, with the journalists, an underlying issue. And that's why a lot of this kind of, viciousness is coming out in their writing, and I think they just need to be better than that. So that's us done with that one. I think we'll move on. We'll move on to the next one. By the way, it's nothing football related, but Robert Duvall, man, passed away. Robert Duvall, absolute legend.
Was that today?
That was today. 94 years old. Robert
I completely missed that.
I mean, that's some innings, by the way. 94 is some innings. Yeah. But what a legend, man. Apocalypse Now, The Godfather. Gone in 60 Seconds. He was an absolute legend in that as well, man. So, what a shame. Rest in peace, Robert Duvall. You don't get that on all these fucking journalist channels, do you? There you go. Robert Duvall, 95. Sorry, George. He was 95. What a legend. Do you know, if I make it to 95, I'll be happy. My poor mother, God rest her soul, didn't even make it to 70. So, he's done well. He's done well there as Robert Duvall. But let's move on to the next section, Mark. What we've got up next after we're talking about the hard press. Oh, yes, the financial battle. So this is an interesting one. So there was a video doing the rounds on social media. It was Henry Winter, which I don't mind, to be fair. Henry Winter's actually all right. I generally feel when he talks, he tries to kind of stay above the line of name calling and stuff like that. I think he generally tries to keep it quite, very decorum, leveled and stuff like that. He doesn't really seem to go off on one, really, does Henry Winter. And he was doing an interview with, was it Christian Purslow, I think it was?
Christian Purslow,
was, former Villa, former City, former
Chelsea and Liverpool. It was.
Liverpool, yeah. So he knows his stuff about money as well. And it was really interesting, this, because he actually said the financial restraints came in basically to stop Newcastle, which we all know was the case. And he said that Newcastle obviously have struggled to grow in terms of their ability to build this huge, big, conglomerate team that can just win everything because of the financial constraints, which we already knew. But to hear somebody talking like that out in the open like that is incredible. What he did say, which was interesting to me, because I've had conversations with you about this, I had conversations with major Newcastle content creators who maybe wouldn't say it on that channel, but we say behind the scenes, that the fact that Newcastle have played so nice, or the PIF have played so nice with these rules that were put in to prevent them from growing. But what Purslow said was that City didn't do that. City just went, fuck you, and they kind of went off and done their own thing. And now you've got the 115, which the Premier League is kicking down the road, and they can't do anything about it, because the minute they let City off with the 115, it opens the floodgates for Newcastle, for Aston Villa, for Chelsea to go, fuck it, we're just going to go spend like there's no tomorrow. So it was a really interesting interview, I felt. But you found some other information which backs up why financially Newcastle are going to always struggle to compete against these other teams, and it's actually quite terrifying. Mark, if you want to take it away with your information there.
Yeah, well, I take the credit. I saw it in the. Funnily enough, I saw it in our Discord group earlier on, and weirdly, I was already looking at wages that obviously the teams.
Stop trying to steal people's ideas. Who said a Discord group? Give them a shout. Stop stealing ideas.
I go back and I have to apologize again. I didn't know it, but I was looking at it this morning because
you are terrible this month. You're getting Dr. Week's wages at this fucking rate.
Shocking,
man, I tell you.
Genuinely shocking. Yeah. It's awful, so apologies. But anyway, you were talking about that we go back to what we talked about before, that the cartel clubs and City are thrown into that, I think reluctantly, because I don't think the Premier League are particularly happy with City anyway. But they really can't do anything about them, or not what they probably want to do. But they all got to spend, they all got to grow before FFP and PSR and now the squad cost stuff was ever brought in. And Perslow was talking about, well, all these regulations, and we call them financial regulations because that's what they are, were brought in supposedly to protect clubs essentially from themselves. But some of those clubs, some of those owners don't need protecting in the same way. And I've always said along the lines, if so long as you can protect the club, and owners, prospective owners should be able to put down an amount of money that will see the club through a number of years, so that if the worst does happen, that club can be sold on, and it doesn't have to be done within minutes. People still get paid. People don't lose their jobs, all that kind of stuff. So that for me is something that should be done. And that then allows those owners that can spend, the likes of Newcastle, the likes of Villa, and some of the other ones with bigger owners, where they spending 200 or 300 million is nothing to them in that regard. And they'll make that back over time anyway. But they're not going to suddenly run out of money. I mean, like he says in the video, Christian Perzo, he says, it's not like, PIF are one of the, if not the wealthiest investment fund in the world. They're not short of cash. They own a lot of business.
Could they push harder though? Could they push harder with this? Could the PIF say, you know what, fuck it, we're going to fucking throw money at it. What are you going to do about it? Could they do that? Because that's always been the big question for me with Newcastle is, are they just playing too much by the rules? Then go and actually fuck it. We're just going to throw at it and say whatever we want to do. Fuck you.
It is an interesting question, because what you're looking at is would they have taken a hit? So like an Everton or a Forest where they take a small points deduction, or
it was never as bad as what they first said it was. They said was it 6 points, and I think Everton got 2. Did they? Forest were 10 and they got 6 or something like that. You know what I mean? So they always scaled it down.
That's it. So there was always I guess there's a temptation from them to have done that. Whether or not they wanted to risk the wrath of the FA or the Premier League and have them come down on them harder, because I think it's a pride thing. I think it's the
Saudis with the money. I think they don't want to have the dishonor of thinking that they can't manage their finances. But that's why I think they need somebody from PIF in the club to go, actually, this is bullshit, and then go, this is why we need to do this. And then the PIF will go, right, fuck it, we'll do it. And I think Newcastle won't go on until that changes.
Yeah. Or until that, and you talked about the 115, until that's sorted out and they get their answer and everybody has an idea of where they then stand. But what I was going to bring up was, and it comes down to where the club can financially compete. And the in the Discord group, the screenshot was there of the Newcastle wages. And what I was looking at already this morning was, well, where does that stand in terms of everybody else's wage structure? And we know that some of them spend ungodly amounts of money on wages for their players. And this is what I brought. This is what I found. And this is from the Capology website. And I don't know if you can see it. You may have to turn your screen.
I'm struggling to see it. I've got Chris Kavanagh's glasses on, mate. I'm struggling to see it.
So this is basically the in the Premier League the highest wage earners, and this is the top 50. Now you have to scroll all the way down to 48 to find the first Newcastle player, which is Bruno Guimaraes. at £160,000 a week. And when you go through some of the players that are in that list who are ahead of him, the 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 likes of Ryan Cherky, who's never really done much before he's gone to City, Leandro Trossard, Harry Maguire, Christian Romero earns £35,000 a week more than Bruno Guimaraes. There are so many players in that list, and they are paid so much more money.
He loses it in fines, though, mate. He loses it in fines. Too many red cards.
Well, probably. That's a very good point. Yeah, should have remembered that, George, to do control and scroll.
Control and scroll.
I'm supposed to be IT literate as well. And you just go through that list, and it's absolutely no wonder that clubs under the cartel can't compete at anywhere near that level, because they just can't pay any of the wages that any of those players would want. When we look at Cunha, for example, Cunha is on 20 grand a week more than Bruno, and he's come from Wolves to Manchester United.
He came from Wolves, exactly.
But this is it. Not even a Wolves team that had been doing well. This was a Wolves team that had been doing badly and gone to a Manchester United team that had done badly, and they can still outpay everybody in terms of the wage.
Just a point on this, back to the previous point that I had before, right? People talking about, oh, you're not allowed an opinion if you're not in the stadium, you're an armchair fan and all that stuff, right? The reason that those clubs have those massive revenues that can pay those players those figures is because they have global fan bases all around the world. They have huge fan bases in the States. I know we do as well, but not as big as those clubs. Ireland in particular, Ireland's either Manchester United or Liverpool is predominantly the Irish fan base in terms of Premier League. And we've got journalists and some fans as well, but journalists saying you're not allowed an opinion if you're not sitting in the ground at St James's Park. And the two don't marry up. You got the CEO, David Hopkinson, talking about wanting to expand the global network. And then you've got the local journalists going, well, you don't matter because you're not in the ground. You know what I mean? It's mental. It's not the same world. If you want to bring all that revenue in and be able to pay those players that money, you have to have more people in the ground. You have to have better commercial revenues and sponsors. You have to have global fan bases all around the world. Magpie members paying for more tickets that they're probably never going to fucking get, because those ballots are shit. Let's get it right. They're dreadful. No one ever gets a ticket, That's what the club needs. The club needs to spread itself across on a global scale to do these big preseason tours of Japan, America, and Korea, and places like that, and get those big revenue figures up. And then you've got people telling you, oh well, no, unless you go to the ground every week, you don't matter. It's two different worlds, man. You're never going to get that when you keep talking about this, and it's just that's the bit that I just can't understand. It's just it does my nut. It does my head, and it really does.
No, agreed. And one of the other things, and it has been touched on this week as well, and I think it was one of Craig Hope's articles, was talking about Newcastle staff preparing or looking at the implementation of a multi-club model. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I do think the way that football has gone, that it's almost a necessity now, because you need those links to other clubs. You need to be able to bring in some of the brighter talents from South America, for example, or elsewhere. And you're obviously not going to bring them straight into the first team at Newcastle, but where Chelsea have done well with that, then they can send them to Strasbourg and then bring them back and do that sort of thing. It's those sorts of things that I think the club have to do. But again, that will bring in worldwide fans because they're part of the group. Do you then have a situation where there are fans from those other clubs that then suddenly start to support an English side as well, and then follow in Newcastle? So we can't sit there and have a go at fans not from the area or fans that can't get the games. I mean, there's an awful lot of you in the chat as well that don't live in the UK and can't get to games. Why should your opinion not matter?
Well,
always.
Ian wants to know, is that your fridge or a wardrobe in the background? That is his fridge. That's his fridge.
That is my fridge.
It's his fridge.
I'll tell you what, actually, I'd put it up, but you can't see it. But I did.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm throwing things away. I don't know if you can see that. I was given this or sent this today by one of the guys I work with who actually doesn't like football. It came from his missus, so shout out to them. And I thought that was hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
Great segue into this week's really ref. And I think there's only one place we're going to go to, and it's Villa Park. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Mark has something else happening in Serie A, but the headline act is definitely Chris blind as fuck Kavanagh at Villa Park on Saturday. You know, the red card with Luca Dean, you can maybe excuse that one, you know, speed of the game and all that, right? I still kind of get my head around how on earth he can look at that and say that isn't a penalty. I mean, Lewis Hall's foul was a penalty as well. Harvey Barnes was a penalty, but that is such a blatant penalty. I have no idea how a professional referee and a linesman cannot look at that and go, that's a penalty. How do you need a bunch of people 100 miles away in a room with screens to tell you that's a penalty? I mean, he's been suspended, hasn't he, from the Premier League fixtures this coming weekend for basically being shy. Shout out to Dom from Geordie Journals there who broke that. So he will not be refereeing this weekend's games, right? He's lucky not to be sacked altogether, you know, because that is unforgivable. There's no way the PGMOL can spin that in any possible way to say that that is a decision that you can understand. That is woeful. Honestly, that is terrible. You know, somebody with a fucking guide dog could have seen that was a penalty. That is so fucking bad. I still can't even get my head around it, Mark. I really can't. It's the worst referee decision I've ever seen. It's Wayne Rooney said that on BBC.
But what got me with it, and I'll bring it up again, is the fact that he then gave the free kick where Trippier was standing.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand how you can look at that, and how the linesman who's about 12 feet away can't see that Dini is about 15 yards inside them. I mean, it's just a shambolic performance.
Even when he gave the free kick, he was still in the box. Look at Dini. He was still in the box. Yeah. He gave the fucking free kick. You were like, how on earth? How on earth, man?
Honestly, it was just one of the most bonkers things of it. It was just I've seen poor refereeing performances. You know, we've all seen a Mike Dean performance, and we've all seen some of the others, but that was just on another level. I've never seen anything like it.
Sorry, mate. I just get rid of that. I pulled him up again there. Didn't know how he got in the channel. Got rid of that fucking idiot. He's always giving grief in the comments, so he's gone. He's a fucking clown. I didn't read it out there. I just pulled it up there accidentally. But yeah, just mate, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand how on earth, you know, you can have that. So Trickster there saying, "Where's Kavanagh explaining?" See, this is the problem with the referees. There's absolutely no accountability. Why aren't they coming in front of the cameras? Why aren't they talking about it? Why aren't they saying, listen, we made a massive mistake? As he says, that's totally incompetent. It's absolutely embarrassing. It really, really is. Mr. Newcastle says both those clowns have been stood down this weekend, and rightly so as well. Rightly so, just because they're absolutely bloody terrible. Comment there from Mike Buffett saying, Chris, I've never seen a ref as bad as him since 79. If it wasn't corruption, I don't know what it is. He wanted us to lose again. The thing is, it sounds quite conspiracy, theory led, but it absolutely is. You know, you've got to start asking that question and say, why on earth? How on earth was that allowed to go? I mean, even Unai Emery was questioning it. You know, and he's a fucking opposing manager, just lost the game 3-1. It's just absolutely crackers. It really is. Marcus there saying, definitely the worst I've ever seen. My blood boiled even more when I watched it, the game back again. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it back. We're just wowing me up, and I'm just not in the mood for it. But yeah, I don't think anything will take the cake on that at all. I don't think there'll be a worse referee decision this entire season than that. I really, really don't. Unbelievable.
No, I agree. And I mean, although Serie A did try and
one second, Mark, 1 second. Sorry, Marcus. This wank has been giving us jip, or giving me jip in these comments and on other channels as well. So he's fucking for the heave-ho, mate. I'm not playing games with pricks like that. So out the door he goes, mate. Fuck him. Sorry, Mark, you were saying about the referee?
Yeah, so I thought the referee in the Juventus game, I think they played against Inter, ran them close. And this was a second yellow card that was given to Pierre Kalulu. I mean, he's not even in the same postcode with his foot, and the guy goes down supposedly tripped. It's another one. It's just absolutely awful. You just think, well, it's not just restricted to the Premier League. The Premier League is particularly bad.
Yeah, it's not just the Premier League, but yeah.
But it boils down to their reluctance to be able, the inability these days to actually make decisions.
And Sticky Finger's got a point there. There's so much money in football. you got to start. I mean, you would be fucking a Disney princess to not think that something's a bit underhanded behind the scenes. But I mean, these decisions, though. I mean, we've seen it. God, what was it? Was it that one was it the goal over the line? Was it the Bournemouth game, the Villa game? I think it was, and that decision relegated a team. And it's
that
just cracker.
Was Sheffield United, I think it was, and that was
Bournemouth.
That was down to Bournemouth? That was Bournemouth that went down, but it was the goal line system that failed.
That was it.
So that didn't buzz the ref's watch to say that it was clearly over the line.
Miles over.
There can't be any argument about that. But there's been loads like that. I mean, we've seen goals given when the ball's gone wide and stuff in the Championship and all sorts of things. So it's not restricted to the Premier League. But honestly, the standard of refereeing in this country has gone down the pan. It's awful.
Chippers is right. Webb should resign. He's done nothing to improve it at all. He's absolutely fucking horrendous, to be brutally honest with you. He's dreadful. I don't know if Newcastle have made a complaint time. I hope they have, because we won the game, so maybe we won the game. So maybe they didn't complain. Dean said, did you see Elanga's comments about his daughter growing up with Geordie accent? It seems like he's getting the club now. Yeah, do you know what? A big shout out to Elanga. I mean, I wrote him off. I think a lot of people wrote him off as well. But he's really come on confidence-wise. He looks like he's got more belief about himself. The whole team looks like it's got more belief, really. I think that's what's been lacking with these players. They're good players, but they haven't had the belief all season. But now we've seen it after Brentford. It seems to have shifted a bit. But even before Brentford, Elanga was starting to show promise, the pace. He's slowing his game down a little bit. He wasn't doing stupid things, rushing the pass, being too quick. He was being measured with his passing, a bit like what he was at Forest, So yeah, roll on that for Elanga, because he seems like a good lad, to be fair. And I hope he does turn it around, and I hope he does, prove a lot of us wrong, who wrote him off, myself included. I love to be proved wrong by these players and the manager. I love it. Brilliant. Prove me wrong. If I say somebody's shite and they turn out to be mint, I'll hold my hands up. One of the very first things I did in Newcastle content, I wrote a piece for True Faith saying that Joe Linton was crap. And then look what happened. You know what I mean? And I don't shy away from that. He totally proved me wrong. I called them Joe Cyples, which True Faith thought was hilarious. But then everyone's a fucking Joe Cyple now, including me, because he made me believe. And that's what players do. That's what Tonali did on Saturday. That's what Elanga is going to do. That's what Faltamada's trying to do. That's what Wissa still has to do. These players have to give you something. Liam said that in the Geordie Journos, and he's spot on. You have to give the fans something to get something back. You can't just demand it and expect it. And that's what some of these people who are writing about the team and the manager are telling you to do, that you just have to give it to them with nothing back. These players have got to earn it sometimes. And, this season has been very, very mediocre. There's been times where we've questioned what the hell's going on. But, these lads definitely rolled their socks up. There's no doubt about it. And the manager's getting a tune out of them. And they all deserve credit for the last couple of games and the last couple of results. But there's a long way to go, so we'll not get too carried away. But as Mark said, we'll criticise when it's due, but praise when it's due. And they've been excellent the last two games. Yeah, there's caveat, as you said, Mark. Spurs are crap. Sacked the manager the day after. Villa had 10 man because their goalkeeper's been watching too many Nick Pope highlights. Fucking, that was the more craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, by the way. I can just imagine Emery. What was that clip when he kept saying his name over again? He's just rubbing his temple, going bizarre. He's just rubbing his temple in the Villa changing room. But if the lads keep up that performance and they keep playing the way that they played the last couple of games, everyone will get off the case, and everyone will say, hey, do you know what? They've turned the corner. He's getting a tune out of the team again. I was maybe quick to judge him, and I'll move on, right? They don't need people giving them shit and going, you lot, That's football. Football opinion changes every single week. And all fan bases are the same.
And what is the one thing we always say about football fans? We are the ficklest bunch of motherfuckers ever. We are really. It's just
that's part of the love of the game. 1 minute, you're fucking shit. The next minute, I remember the lad I used to work with, Stewie, he's a good friend of mine, going through some tough times with his missus. He won't watch this, but massive love to them as well. Bereavement, stuff like that in the family. So it's a horrible thing to go through. But he came up to Newcastle with me when we were in Europe. And yes, I do go to games. And I went to this game. I took him to see, remember that massive long Russian team where Eto'o played for them? What the hell were they called? And Pardew was there. You remember the ones? It was like shortened down. They played in a yellow shirt. Samuel Eto'o was there. What the hell were they called? we'll get Google Samuel Eto'o, you'll get the name. But we were playing them. Anzi, that's it. Thank you, Chippers. Anzi, that's the one.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, Chippers on the ball. So we were playing in that game, and I kept shouting, "Fucking Cisse, you're always offside, you fucking shit!" And he scored the win, and I was like, "Yeah!" Stewie was taking the piss out of me the whole after the game, saying that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. But that's what football fans do, man. And don't take that away from football fans, whether they're in the ground or they're watching on the other side of the world. That's the beauty of football, man. You know, it takes you from down here, there, up here in seconds, in moments. And don't take that away from football fans for making them. It's almost like the VAR thing with the goals. People don't celebrate, you know, because they don't know if it's a goal. You're trying to tell football fans not to have an opinion and not to care and not to be upset and not to be excited. Fucking hell, man. It's soulless. It's like equilibrium, isn't it? Absolutely fucking dreadful. Coming here from Jake and Ryan. Oi, lads. Sorry, I haven't been on in a while. I don't get notifications anymore. Sorry to hear that, mate. Mark, it's Ryan. I'm back on the sites now. Slowly getting back.
Good to see you, man.
A Mark fan.
Hope you're doing well, mate.
We'll send you a signed Mark photograph, Brian.
Those don't exist.
It was on his fridge. It was on his fridge. We got rid of it.
Are you trying to say that is a picture of me? Thanks very much. Actually, that's
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's it really. Like I say, football is all about passion and opinions flipping all the time. It
is, the perfect example of the fickleness of a football fan, and I go back to that Hatton Ben Arthur goal at St James's Park.
Yeah,
and I guarantee there was more than just us shouting at him to pass the ball, and that he was a greedy fucker.
Yeah.
And then he goes and
scores bastard about fucking 6 times, and then he smashed the top corner. What the fuck do I know?
And within the same movement, then scores, and you celebrate the goal. Yeah. This is it. It's just great. It's just great.
Absolutely, mate. But like I say, I just hope that all of this crap doesn't ruin the passion and the enjoyable volatility of football. Do you know what I mean? Ty saying his missus has asked for a signed Mark photo. It's going to be a thing now. Well, Billy at the Toon Review's got his Billy t-shirts. We'll have signed Mark photos. If we run out of them, we'll just get pictures of Biff from Back to the Future, and you can sign them as well.
Thanks, man.
There's another film reference. Love it. Right, let's move on. Out of Toon, and we'll wrap up. Before my hotel Wi-Fi dies on me. I'm surprised it's lasted as long there. So Out of Toon, this is the bit where we walk away from Newcastle. And it's nice to walk away from Newcastle sometimes. It has been exhausting the last few weeks. It really has. As long as the team keeps winning and the feel-good factor's there, all of the negativity and toxicity will just erode away, flush down the toilet. But I like stepping away from Newcastle for a little bit and talking about other things in the world of football. So what we got first, Mark, loaded up. What have we got first? Is it it's the Grimsby pitch of the FA Cup, isn't it? Grimsby versus Wolves. So it was FA Cup weekend, as we know. That is FA Cup weekend for me, Mark. The game went ahead as well. Wolves won 1-0. Fair play to Wolves. But that is proper FA Cup pitches there.
That Sunday league midwinter sort of. I played on that. Yeah, absolutely right. There was a hilarious part. I think it was the first half, and Wolves are breaking down the right hand side, and I think it was Mane played the ball forward, and whoever the other player was, and again, forgive me, I'm shocking with names this week. Ran in sort of behind the defender, expecting the ball to. Well, thanks, man. And with the ball, the ball just stopped. And everybody's like, "What the fuck?" And it was one of those where you just thought, and it's a great leveler because it brings Wolves down. And people have complained about being, dangerous. Jesus Christ, we played on pitches like that for 100+ years.
You can smell the muck.
Honestly,
absolutely, you can smell the muck from that photo. But I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Tell you one thing I didn't love, right? And it's really getting on my tits, this, right? That's because I'm a miserable old bastard these days, right? But this United Strand kid, this kid with the hairdo, right? Fair fucks to him, right? He's taken internet stupid to the next level, really. Because I think I read somewhere that he's earned 500 grand and he's going to buy a house outright without a mortgage, which is brilliant. So this kid has grown his hair to look like a pile of pubes, and he's got 500 grand for it. So massive credit to him for that. But everyone's getting a little bit sick of it. And Wayne Rooney was asked this on the podcast. I'm starting to really like Wayne Rooney, actually. He's becoming quite a miserable old bastard himself, and I quite enjoy that. And he said on this podcast, I'd put him on the other side of the country. He's doing my head in. We're talking about Carrick and United trying to win their 5th game in a row. And the whole thing is about this guy getting his hair cut. I bet he's devastated if United win the 5th game because all of a sudden he's irrelevant. And Mateus Cunha even said they're bored of it, like they don't want to hear about it. Like the mainstream medias are making loads of noise about it, and people are throwing it all on the internet, and he's live streaming his reactions, and he's just taking as much of it in as he possibly can. I mean, yeah, you're right, Looney Tune. Fuck me, if I could grow my hair look like that, I would do it for 500k as well, mate. Holy fuck. You know what I mean? I'd look more like Frasier Crane Series 3 if I grew my hair out, I think, to be honest with you. Or Sideshow Bob, probably. But I mean, it's this internet famous stuff, man. Oh, honestly, it does my nut at times. Hawk 2 Girl and all this other shit. Like it reminds me. I remember the Simpsons episode when Homer had the perfect game, and everyone got really bored of him because he bowled a 300 game and he kept rocking up on TV shows. That's what it reminds me of, mate. It just fucking gets on my nerves. It really does.
Love a Simpsons reference. You can't beat it. But no, he's one of those where at first it's novel, it's funny, but the more it's gone on and the more it's just like, and you're right, the live streaming of him being in the barbers or whatever it was, where he's going to get his hair cut and then celebrating the goal to win, and for a fact he was absolutely like he would have been devastated had they.
He's irrelevant, as Rooney says. He's totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which is bad, but yeah, it's one of them things where it's funny to start with, and it just gets on your nerves. I mean, fair play to Mark Goldbridge. He was on a stream and he said he was going to sue him, and he was really deadpan serious. And the guy who was doing it was really, oh my god. Then he went, "I'm only joking,"
yeah.
which I thought was quite funny, to be fair. So fair play to Goldbridge on that one, mate. But what's next on the Out of Toon conveyor belt, mate? What we got next?
I think we will go to James Trafford.
Oh, this poor lad. Listen, James Trafford, right? Fucking hell. This poor lad, right? I say poor lad, he's on like probably Mark's grid day, he's probably about 250 grand a week, probably, so he's not that poor. But obviously James Trafford was chased by Newcastle for so long, went to Manchester City because of some contractual agreement, and if you believe what you read, some kind of messing around behind the scenes and possibly us pissing Burnley off. So he went to Manchester City, and then they went and signed Donnarumma, and this poor lad's not getting a sniff, and he played in the FA Cup, did well, made a couple of nice saves, got interviewed after the game, and he just looked broken, Mark.
He looked devastated, didn't he?
He looked absolutely gutted, and he just said, this is what he said. He said, I've got a contract, so I don't know what happens next season. I just know that I'll just take it day by day, and at a time and try to improve. And I feel so sorry for his World Cup year as well. He's not getting a sniff. I mean, he's looking at the England goalkeeper situation as dog shit. I think if you got fit, you might have a sniff at a World Cup player, to be honest with you, mate. That's how bad the England World Cup goalkeeping situation is. No disrespect to your quality, by the way, but you are a little bit older than Jordan Pickford, mate. You're still better across
just a couple of years.
Just a couple of years, yeah. But you're not mental as well. I mean, I feel so sorry for Trafford. I mean, I suppose two questions there. Has he made his own bed in a way? But also, should Newcastle go in the summer if there's a chance there?
I think he's been really badly advised. I think I've seen comments about City knew about Donnarumma's situation, so they knew going into signing Trafford that Donnarumma was going to be available. They were likely going to be the front runners for him. I do feel for him. I think he's a cracking goal, but I always have. I thought he would have been perfect for Newcastle. I still do. And he's got such an upside to him. And he's already, he proved it against Newcastle, particularly in that first leg. He was excellent.
He was great.
And I do think that he needs to move on. It's ridiculous as it is. He needs to move on in the summer to play and become England's number one. Because I genuinely think he's better than Pickford to come. Maybe he's not at this point in time. We haven't seen enough of him at the top level, but he's definitely got the ability to be far better than Jordan Pickford. And I think he's already on a par with the likes of Henderson and Johnston and that. I just think he's got to move on. And yeah, I'll take that.
It's a fair comment, Looney Tune. It's a fair comment, mate. Yeah.
But I think for a player of his age and his lack of, I guess maybe his lack of knowledge, maybe I'm being too kind. maybe I'm being too kind, but it's just, I do think it's been an awful situation. And he looked crestfallen, having just played in the FA Cup and won in the FA Cup and played well. To look that crestfallen those questions had to come up, and I thought he answered them really well.
Yeah, he seems a decent lad. I mean, like you say, whether he's been badly advised or whether he's seen the money, whatever it is, it ain't working out for him. And I think he's going to have to do something in the summer. And to be fair to Pep doesn't stand in players' ways if they want to go. But I think there could be a good chance Pep will disappear in the summer. I think if they don't win the title, he might stay for the season to try and win it. But if they did win the title, I think he'll go. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, mate. But talk of looking at Vincent Kompany apparently as well. So I think there's definitely noise that he's going to go, and it's not on Pep like to do this, really, is it? In all fairness, so we'll see.
No,
we'll see what happens there. But next one, Mark, what we got next on Out of Toon?
I think do we go to Trent?
Yes. Well, Trent Alexander-Arnold's had a rough ride at Real Madrid. He's been injured. He's been out of team. People have questioned his quality. A lot of Liverpool fans laughing at him after they were burning the effigies of him, in the summer, and his shirt and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I don't mind Trent as a player. I think he's a good player. Questionable as a defender, but you can't deny his technique. And he was brilliant at the weekend. Some of the quality passes he was knocking around, crossfield passes. He put a Beckham-esque crossing for the first goal. Was it Gonzalo? I'm trying to remember his name. Gonzalo, the centre forward. He put a brilliant crossing. It was Beckham-esque. He really was. And then the kind of interim Real Madrid manager, Arbeloa, just said that, we know how good he is. We know his qualities. We know what he can do with the ball. He's trying to get himself back to fitness. And it was nice to see that from Trent, because I think a lot of people have written him off a bit prematurely. I think this kid's a really, really good footballer. Defensively wise, I think he would actually work better, almost like how we used Lewis Miley in that midfield, stepping in and then dropping back into a 5. In a defence, I think that's perfect for Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he can play in that midfield role in the attack and then drop back in as a 5. When he's obviously not as good of a defender as Lewis Miley, but he can play. He can play in that role. No. But it's good to see him return to form.
It is. It's funny because England tried to play him as that sort of holding midfielder and almost the quarterback in that role, didn't they? And it is just good to see him playing again, because he is an English talent. He's got such a wonderful right foot on him, and that ability to pass the ball is Beckham, Gerrard, Scholes-esque, and he can hit passes from anywhere. And look, a fit and informed Trent is on the plane. Like he probably has to be.
Too much quality in that right peg. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If only his defending was a little better, he'd be perfect, wouldn't he? But look, it's good to see him back in the side. Good to see him playing well. I think that's the takeaway from that.
What do you think about the Jude Bellingham stuff? There's a lot of stuff coming out there that Jude Bellingham's not going to be on the plane. Do you think that's a possibility, or what? I mean, is that mad?
I think if he's fit, he goes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of noise that Tuchel's not interested in taking him. Is it his attitude?
No. Probably. I think, well, that's been called into question at Madrid as well, hasn't it? About his attitude, particularly towards the manager or towards the... But it's, again, a fit and fully informed Jude Bellingham is a brilliant footballer. We haven't seen enough of it. We really haven't. We haven't seen enough of it from an England perspective. So I can understand why he wouldn't be. I mean, you look in the Premier League and you've got, in that sort of position that he probably wants to be in that more 10 role, you've got at least 3 players that are probably ahead of him by far at the moment. So it would be questionable, I think, whether he goes. But I think he'd take, if he's fit, he'll go.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm going to maybe try and adopt Ian's approach here. He said his dad is a bellend, allegedly. Maybe that's what I should have said. I would have got clipped up and got loads of shit if I'd said allegedly. Yeah, so well done, mate. Thank you for reminding me how to play the game there, pal. Well done. But I suppose just before we move on from this, there was another player who, kind of come back from the void, really. My dad's team, Celtic, as a lot of you may know if you watch the channel for a long time, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain signed for Celtic, and he's been out of the picture for football for 9 months, and he come off the bench tucked inside and curled an absolute corker in the back of the net to win them the game. And it was really good to see, because I've always liked the Ox as a player. I've always thought if he went and played for someone like Newcastle or Villa, we would have appreciated him more than he would have had at Arsenal and Liverpool possibly. But yeah, I just thought it was great to see that. I can't wait to see like Rod Stewart and Perry next to each other in the crowd. That'll be an interesting fucking duo, won't it? Who's got the bigger, blonder hair out of them two? But it's great to see the Ox come back, mate, and do that.
It was sorry, I didn't have the image ready for it. I completely forgot to add him to it, but it was a brilliant finish, and it is good to see him back, because he is one of those players that always looked really exciting, and I think was. I guess another one that's just struggled with injuries, and he needed he's change of scenery again.
Is that you that gone? Did you disappear there? You had a little blip there, I think. But yeah, I think
I think that's me.
That was you. Yeah, but yeah, it was great to see him back. But another player who seems to have been around forever is James Milner. I've seen a cracking post about James Milner the other day. I mean, James Milner's right up there with the all-time Premier League. I think he needs about another 10,000 minutes or something to be the biggest appearance maker. But he turned around and said this. I love it. He said, "There's lads that I played with at the start of my career whose sons I'm now playing again with or against. Justin Kluivert, I played with his dad. I played with Bobby Clark at Liverpool and played with his dad at Newcastle. Tommy Watson's girlfriend is Ian Hart's daughter." Talk about fucking age catching up on you, Milner. That's hilarious, that. But what a professional he's been, mate. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's 653 appearances now in the Premier League, which equals Gareth Barry's. I mean, he's probably a million miles behind in terms of minutes played. He hasn't played an awful lot over not a lot of minutes anyway. But I mean, what a pro! I mean, jokes about him being boring as hell. But look, when you continue to put in that level of effort every day and can still play at a decent level in the Premier League at the age he is, and been doing it for, when did he make his debut again?
2016. Was it 16 years old for Spurs? Sorry, for Leeds, wasn't he? 16 years old?
Was it? I don't know. It didn't say on that. I can't remember. And yeah, he was 16 when he made his debut for Leeds, wasn't he? And it's just, yeah, I mean, just the longevity there is phenomenal for him, and fair play to him. He's been a cracking player wherever he's played. So he just deserves those sort of plaudits, doesn't he? What a pro. Well,
I mean, they don't make him like that anymore, do they? Because what you don't have now is midfielders working hard, throwing themselves into tackles, even when their team's struggling. What you have now, when your teams are in relegation fights, is players doing videos about their fucking hairstyles. So if you hadn't seen this already, this was Lucas Bergville showing everybody how he styles his hair. So this was shared on X there by, I think that's Jody who shared it there, but it was Spurs Army who shared it originally. But this fucking guy, you know, Spurs are in the mire. They've just sacked their manager. They're in a relegation fight. And he's doing videos about his hair routine. I mean, who is advising these players, Mark? And how thick are they to go, oh, that's a good look. Yeah, we've been shit all season. We're in a relegation fight. I know what I'll do. I'll get me Brill cream out, my fucking volumizer. That'll make everybody happy. What are they doing, man?
He's out injured as well, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah. I think he suffered a bad injury when he played in the Champions League game, and he's not getting an appearance bonus at the moment, so he needs something to top up his income, doesn't he? He needs those TikTok ad revenues and things like that.
I just want to see Expressions do a video about him doing his hair when they're being so bad in the league that I will actually get a popcorn and watch that, because that would be absolutely stupendous. It really would. But I mean, It's crazy. Like I say, they don't make midfielders like they used to. You know, not like the Ginger Perlo who used to play for Newcastle many moons ago, who's got a new club. I've got no idea who these guys are, Mark. I think you researched them. What are they called? Is it Anstey Nomads? I mean, that sounds like an army Harry Potter would gather to fight Voldemort or something like that in Hogwarts. I don't know who the fuck they are. No disrespect to them, but Jack Colback signed for them. My God, what a fourth in the Premier League that is.
At 36 years old as well, he's dropped down to the Northern Premier League, Division 1 Midlands, to play for I think it's Leicestershire based Anstey Nomads. What a what a signing that is for them.
I know. I wonder what his match winning bonuses. Like, I think he gets like a cup of tea or something like that, or a caramel wafer or something like that. Possibly. That's unbelievable. But yeah, it was good luck to you, Jack Colback. Good luck to you. But a couple of people have had some bad luck this week. Manager Sean Dyche lost his job. Obviously, Thomas Frank lost his job as well. But Sean Dyche got sacked. This one I'm scratching my head for, really. I do miss Sean Dyche's gravelly voice already. I miss him in the Premier League. He's brilliant. I love that clip. That's like my inner voice when you just seen him like mouthing from the sideline. Chris, don't be a dickhead. That's my inner voice trying to tell me stop being a dickhead, really. So I do miss that from Sean Dyche. But I mean, he came in, he got Forest playing again, and then they've had a couple of iffy results. And that absolute crackpot Marinakis has just binned him. Like, they've now got a fourth manager. Is it Victor Pereira, ex-Watford manager?
Pereira, is it Vita Pereira?
Vita, sorry. How British of me, Vita Pereira. Sorry about that.
Let's not forget this is also the same Vita Pereira that wasn't good enough. It was Wolves. It wasn't good enough for Wolves.
Or Everton, I remember. Didn't they write about that?
Or Everton, and he hadn't even gone there. But Dyche, it's such an odd one because he had gone in and he felt he was doing well. He'd gone in.
He'd kept them up. He'd kept them up, I think. Dyche. He'd kept them up.
And that run of results he had to start with was really good. And yes, they've dropped off. They had a run of, I think, four defeats in a row. They've only won 3 of their last 10 games, I think it is, or maybe it's more than that. But I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was a 0-0 draw against Wolves, and naturally, what Marinakis does is he sacks his manager and goes and signs the ex-Wolves manager.
I mean, wouldn't it just be justice done if West Ham, who are now in a run of form with Nuno Espirito Santo, stay in the Premier League, the guy that Marinakis sacked, and then he goes down as a club? That would almost be karma, perfect karma for this lunatic to suffer from that.
Yeah, and look, I've nothing against Forest fans for that because I like that. I like them as a club. They've got a wealth of history, but look, he's not a lunatic. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the whole Watford thing where it's just, and this I guess this is always the thing that gets thrown away when you're talking about losing a manager. Is that you don't want to fall into that trap of it becomes manager after manager after manager after manager. But he's a lunatic.
Could you imagine Nuno relegating Spurs and Forest? Oh, fucking hell, that would be brilliant. Could you imagine that?
The fallout from that. Can you imagine Expression's response to that?
Well,
that would be exceptional.
I tell you what, if Forest go down, Newcastle need to be straight in Fairleigh Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White, in my opinion. We've got a super chat in from Evan. He says, I know this sounds daft, but I get my hair cut by the same barber as Miley. He's got very good hair, Lewis Miley, so he must have a good barber. Miley's been in for a haircut today. Muscle tear, looking like a few months out. Oh, God, hope that's not true. That's bad. That's bad if it is. Let's hope it's not the case.
They had mentioned, because they were talking about being a dead leg and just suffering, and then it became, I guess, changed to a muscle damage, and that tends to not be quick. So we could be looking at a Joe Linton scenario of timeout, maybe. But look, it's a big blow if he's not available.
It's crackers. So I mean, I suppose just following on from talking about sacked managers there. So I saw something crazy that popped up about West Ham. So talking about Nuno doing a good job at West Ham at the moment, and he's obviously, looking like he's got them a little bit of form, maybe get themselves out of the relegation fight. But West Ham are still paying for managers that they've got rid of. So they're actually paying 3 managers at the same time. The current manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, they're also paying still for Lopetegui, who they binned in 2026. And Graham Potter is still contracted till June 2027. So the total cost is believed to be around 10.5 million per year, 875 grand a month on manager salaries. I mean, what is that doing to their FFP and PSR, Mark? That is batshit crazy. That
it's nuts. See what it sort of reminds us of the whole Alan Pardew thing where Pardew was given
8-year
that
contract.
ridiculous 8-year contract, and then obviously I think Newcastle then went through they went through McLaren. Obviously Carver had taken over, then McLaren, and then they would have been into Benitez, and then
Was the third.
Bruce probably would have been there as well, while they were probably still off. Honest to God, man. I mean, but just it is baffling. But again, it's that trap of you make a change, it doesn't work, so make a change. I can kind of see the argument, but yeah, I mean, for a lot of this, it's badly run clubs, and I think that points to those two that are just at the moment badly run.
Yeah, well, Spurs is interesting because they got Tudor in. No one seems to be happy with that, at least of all Teddy Sheringham. So they brought in Tudor, who's not got a great record really in many ways, and people are saying doesn't know the Premier League and all that. Sometimes that can go in your favour because you can have a bit of a freshness to it and you approach and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that Spurs job is a bit of a poison chalice at the minute, and I actually don't think that's going to end very well for him. I think that Spurs team. I mean, you've got to caveat it by saying they're missing about 14 really good players that could get in that starting 11. You know what I mean? Most of them anyway. So they are missing a lot of good players, but I just have a feeling that's not going to end well for Tudor. I just don't feel that him coming in is going to really get Spurs playing again. I don't know. It just, that whole club seems like it's absolutely on a road to nowhere at the minute. Spurs could be the best stadium in the Championship next season, huh?
Well, he absolutely could. You talked about Tudor not having done well. 2015 sacked by PAOK, 2017 sacked by Galatasaray after 10 months, 2018 sacked by Udinese after 6 weeks, rehired by Udinese and then sacked again 7 months later, sacked as Juve manager after one season, by Hellas Verona after a season, resigned from Marseille after a season, only 3 months at Lazio, and then sacked again by Juventus after 7 months. I mean, he's not exactly got the track record of a manager. One sticks around anywhere for very long, but two does very well.
Yeah, it's not particularly great, is it? So yeah, a little bit mad that. But the Chelsea owner's also been lipping off about a new idea that he's got. You sent this to me just before we came on. So Todd Bowley thinks the Premier League should adopt an all-star game. He said, ultimately, I hope the Premier League takes a little bit of a lesson from American sports. Yes, because they're great people to learn from, aren't they? And really starts to figure out, why don't we do a tournament with the bottom 4 sports teams? Why isn't there an all-star game? Because we're not in America, you tosser. That's why, mainly, is my answer to that, Mark. But, I mean, this guy, fucking, not only does he sign every Newcastle target going, now he wants to turn the Premier League into the PFL. No thanks, mate. But me, honestly.
But we'll go with it with the obvious answer back at him straight away. It's because we don't run in franchises for limited sports leagues. We have promotion, we have relegation. Like, you can run a tournament at the end of the season for the playoffs, for the NFL, for the NBA, for the MLB and the NHL, because they only have a limited number of teams. Like, there is one league, essentially. They're broken up into different divisions, whatever. But there's one league. Like, you can't do that with 92 football clubs in the Football League and thousands of non-league games. Exactly.
Who's in the States. He says nobody watches the All-Star games. So there you go. Somebody in the States says that's bollocks. And by the way, we've got a new member there. So Evan's clicked that button. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Really nice of you to do so. So we'll finish on a couple of in-tune stories, actually. So these have been doing the rounds. We've got one about Jose before we do that. What's this one about Jose? What's the Jose one? So yeah, this has come up. So this is interesting. Not to get all the people's blood racing again, but apparently there's a major Premier League club is closely monitoring Jose Mourinho's work at Benfica with a view to a potential appointment. The club were particularly impressed by the dominant UEFA Champions League victory over Real Madrid. And if he eliminates him from the competition, they are expecting to move decisively to bring him in the summer. Now, I'm just going to keep an eye on our comments here to see what happens with this one. But yeah, Jose Mourinho back in the Premier League. Who could he end up going to, Mark? Could be anyone. Could he really?
I joked earlier. Can you see him back at Spurs? West Ham might be a shout.
No.
But
West Ham
there's a link a little bit closer to home, isn't there?
I think there possibly may be, but we'll not talk too much about that. But let us know in the comments, guys. If Jose Mourinho's back to the Premier League, where could you see him rocking up? Because there's been a few people over the last few months who have mentioned where they can see Jose Mourinho rocking up. But we'll wait and see how that one plays out. Because do you know what? I actually think he might put Real Madrid out. I think he might. I really do. Because I think Ego FC are all over the place. I think at the minute, and I think Mourinho's got, when he gets you here, when he's got you here, you're in big trouble. And I think he's got them. Thank you, mate. I think he's definitely got them. Middlesbrough next season, says Martin. What a shout. Jose at Middlesbrough. Superb. No,
what was it? Actually, they were playing tonight, weren't they?
Yeah, he didn't get a cup, Marcus. They actually sacked him before the final, which was mental because he would have won that cup, because that's what he does. And they give it to Ryan Mason, didn't? That was the weirdest decision I think I've ever seen. So we'll finish up with a couple of in-tunes then. So a couple of our players have been linked to moves over the last week. Now, this one was before his starring performance in the number 8 role, which some people won't like, some people might. But there's talk already that Newcastle are ready to cut their losses with Nick Voltemade in the summer, that they're frustrated with his form. Given the source of where it come from, Mark, as well, I think it was Football Insider, which, I think is right next to Rat Baby Born and Northumbria Bus Flies to the Moon. I don't believe this, because 69 million quid on a 23-year-old lad who's got 8 goals already this season. I don't think Newcastle are going to cut their losses that quick on Nick Voltemade, do you?
No, I'm completely, when it comes to the source of said material. Yeah. I'm very much one to not go. And what I was is Newcastle fans have become frustrated. Some had, but I think but I think you're absolutely right. Magpie 50, total bullshit. It just absolutely anything that comes from Football Insider is just utter shite.
It generally is. And then there was another player who's been linked to this move again, and he's been linked to it before, and this is Anthony Gordon. So Liverpool apparently are the early front runners in the race to sign Anthony Gordon. Sources anticipate Newcastle struggling to keep Gordon, who would cost around £95 million. I don't think we'll get that for him after the season that he's had, to be brutally honest with you. But apparently Man United are interested in him. City, which I don't really believe, when they've got Doku and Semenyo. I don't think he's going to get ahead of them too, to be brutally honest with you. So Anthony Gordon's a funny one, because some people think Anthony Gordon is brilliant, and some people think he's the best player in the world. They actually think he's the best centre forward of the club, which is not the case at all. He's got 1 goal in open play in over a year. Now, is he a good footballer on his day? Yes. Has he been a good footballer for Newcastle over the last 18 months? Not really a lot. He has in small moments, but not consistently. Champions League, he's looked a different player. Premier League, he's been way off the pace. And I think Anthony Gordon would be the first person to admit that as well, to be honest with you. He's still getting in England squads, because I think he's very much a permanent fixture now in that England squad setup. And I think once you become a permanent fixture, your form is kind of irrelevant. I think as long as you're fit enough to play, you're kind of in, aren't you, with England? It's a weird thing. It's happened for years, that. But if Newcastle were to get anywhere between 80 million and 95 million for Anthony Gordon in the summer, what are you doing, Mark? What would you say?
If it's me making the decisions, I'm taking that money and running.
I would sell him.
After the last year and a half sort of performances, and look, he's scored goals in the Champions League. He is now joint top scorer in the Champions League for Newcastle. I think from sort of match day 1, I guess, if you're not including any qualifying rounds of the bit, you'll have to forgive my historic knowledge. It's wavy on goal scorers to that matter, but. Yeah, he's not performed to the level that he set, and for 90 million, if you're close to that, I'm not probably as far as some have gone. Pass me the keys, I'll drive them down. I don't think you turn that down, because there's an awful lot of money in that clears off what was left in his deal in the first place, and leaves an awful lot of money to then plow into the first team again. I think for that amount, I can't believe that it would be that amount of money.
I don't think it would be that much. I'd be stunned.
Anything close to that, I think they'd snap their hands off for it.
Yeah, I'd be stunned at that. Mind you, so Ty just mentioned Tony Gord there. That Instagram thing is hilarious. That guy doing Tony Gord with the the perfume and that. I said it to you the other day about Anthony Gordon. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. That I actually think Gordon will find that funny as well, to be fair, because that is hilarious. If somebody was doing that kind of a funny impression of you, I think you'd be pissing yourself laughing, to be fair. It's not even offensive, it's just funny as fuck. But yeah, I think, yeah, for me, that's a good question. That's a good point there from Ryan. He kind of picks and chooses when he shows up. Yeah. And I've said that for a while now. There's certain people in the press who, seem to try and tell everybody he's the best player that's ever played in a black and white shirt. And I think largely that's to protect the relationship that they have with him. But let's get it right. He's not turned up enough. Harvey Barnes has played way better than him over the last year. The goals show you that. The assists show you that. I know Barnes has been thin on assists this season. But to be fair, all the wingers have been thin on assists this season. But I don't think he can command the level of praise that he gets from certain pockets of the media. I just generally don't think the receipts are there. The body of work's not there, to justify those outlandish statements about him. They're not, And again, I'll caveat it with exactly what I said about everything else. I don't want to come on a microphone and say that Anthony Gordon's rubbish and he shouldn't be starting on the team. I want to say Anthony Gordon was brilliant. He turned the game, pace, quality, goals, assists. That's what I want to see from Anthony Gordon, but you just don't see enough. And I just don't think he, and again, that kind of money, you couldn't turn that down. I mean, Newcastle have got to become better sellers. We've got to become better sellers as a club.
Selling at peak price.
Selling at peak prices. Villa have been really good at that. You look at that Diaby deal they did, buy him in, sell him off. I mean, Christ, PIF have helped all the other Premier League teams out more than us in terms of buying people's players off them for top money. But the Isak thing, if Isak wanted to leave, we should have sold him way before we did. That was a mess, And if Tonali does want to leave, sell him for top dollar too. You've got Miley there coming through, hell of a player. Jacob Ramsey's looking like a better player now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't keep players who don't want to be here. Sell them for top dollar and reinvest the money, like Villa did with Jack Grealish. 100 million, didn't want to sell him. He was their best player, but they sold him and they transformed their team, and they've been in the Champions League twice now since they sold Jack Grealish. That's what you need to do as a team that, as we showed before in the financial picture, if you can't get into that bracket through the match day revenues and everything else, you've got to do player trading. You have to do it, and then you've got to scout well and sign the next superstars, and just keep doing that over and over again. It's not a nice thing. We shouldn't have to do it. We've got rich owners, but we do. But yeah, so 95 million quid, that'd be mad for Newcastle to turn that down. But listen, we'll have to wait till the summer for all that noise to come through. But that's us all done for tonight, guys. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments, as always, all of the likes, the super chats, the whole shebang. We really appreciate it. Remember, if you haven't already, smash that button. Help get us to the next milestone, which would be 13,000. I think we're nearly at 12,700, so we're getting close. So help get us there, guys, as well. Share the channel. It's all free to do. So if you want to be a member, there's options down there below. You will get exclusive access to our Discord group chat, which is much nicer than any social media platform. And you get now member-only content. We had the Q&A the other day, and we'll try and do a lot more of that as well. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a cracking evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. We'll be back with the Carabao preview, which he'll be doing because I'm away, so he'll be doing that one. And then I'll be back for the post-match after hopefully Newcastle beat Carabao comfortably in the Champions League. Have a belter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.
Cheers, guys. See ya.
Celebrate. They have done it.